to you from the Spit Studios in Burnaby, British Columbia, Canada. This is the Spit Sports Show. It's great to be finally back in the studio itself, not just my fake studio in my bedroom. Awesome weekend. Well, not so awesome weekend of football up until that Sunday nighter, if I'm being honest. The games were a bit dull, but thankfully we have the best weekend in maybe sports coming up, divisional round.
Yeah.
I feel like the wild card is kind of just the dressing on top of the salad, which is divisional round weekend. Bills-Ravens is going to be awesome. We got a bunch of great games. Whoever ends up playing the Eagles, Vikings, or Rams, that's going to be an awesome game too. Lions-Commanders might be the most entertaining, likable game that we've seen in years. Like, who doesn't want both of those teams to end up winning, even though only one of them can? But before we get into all of that stuff, we're going to recap wild card weekend, game by game, in order from Saturday to Sunday. And we have a lot to cover because a lot of names were exposed, a lot of teams were brought out for what they really are. And one of those teams was the Los Angeles Chargers, who ended up losing pretty handedly to the Houston Texans. It was close throughout, but the Texans were able to kind of pull away at the end. Yeah. Exactly. No thanks to Herbert's 4 interceptions, which is more than he's thrown the entire season. We can talk about Stroud and the Texans in a bit, but I guess my question to you, Caleb, would be, is Justin Herbert now, with yet another tough playoff performance, the most overrated quarterback in the NFL?
No, he isn't. Because if you break down the game, he wasn't the reason why they lost. Outside of Ladd McConkey, receivers and running backs had 45 combined yards. Will Dissly, right in the hands.
Yeah, that was not his fault. I agree with you. That was the one.
And I just want to say, shout out Ladd McConkey.
Dog.
That.
I got him in fantasy week 3 for Rashid Shaheed. I got him and Isaiah Pacheco for Rashid Shaheed. I swear. I'll show you the trade after this.
Because Shaheed got injured. But outside of Ladd McConkey, the O-line decided to play terribly, especially the inside O-line. And I just thought the play calling was very bad. It was 6-0 Chargers. Stroud threw a terrible pick.
He did.
And then next play, Herbert threw a pick. What is that play call? Why do you have Herbert rolling out all the way? I don't know if it was Herbert's decision.
Why does Herbert have to make that decision to throw it back across his body in a double coverage?
Was that the play call, though?
I don't know, but you're allowed to make reads as a quarterback,
I get that. But the rollout play call is that pressure's coming to you from this way. He doesn't have much time to make a full read progression.
But he has time to throw an interception in a double coverage. That's not a good play.
Yeah,
I don't care what the play design is. Rolling Justin Herbert out to the right, I think, is a good way to start a play. Personally, no one told him.
It's a good way to start a drive at the 40.
No one told him to throw the ball back across his body. I haven't watched the coach's tape, but I guarantee you there's a sail route on his right side and probably an underneath pattern. It was a bad decision.
Well, with the receivers on the Chargers, I don't trust them at all. There was probably no one open.
So the other interception, he threw it right over Ladd McConkey's head.
Oh, that one was terrible. That one was terrible. I will say about that one, he was hesitant. He had it, pumped sort of, and then just oversailed it through his head.
So I don't think Herbert's the most overrated quarterback either. I think he's still anywhere from that probably 8 to 6, 5 range in terms of quarterback.
Okay, that's fair.
But
he's easily top 10.
Here's the thing about that. Like you just said, easily top 10. Everybody talks about him like that. Yeah. He's got that reputation. So with that reputation, we have to hold him to the same standard that we'd hold all of these top 10 quarterbacks. And I'm sorry, I have to go year by year of Herbert's career. It's just been shortcoming after shortcoming. So rookie year, he goes 6-9, which is not good. But it's his rookie year. He puts up crazy stats. Whatever. Fine year. Maybe the best year of his entire career.
4,000 passing yards and 30 touchdowns as a rookie in 15 games.
Yeah, I just said he had great stats.
Yeah, That's insane.
Yeah, with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Austin Eckler still
Mike
at the height
Williams.
of his powers. Mike Williams was really good that year.
I mean,
really good. This was pre-injury Mike Williams.
Mike Williams' best year was the next year.
Okay, but he's still really
I don't
good.
think he was that good in 2020, but they had Anthony Lynn. They had a terrible defense.
Okay, so next year, he gets into a win-and-get-in game against the Raiders, where, admittedly, his stats were great, but he threw the ball 64 times. So, listen, 300 yards is 300 yards. He threw 3 touchdowns. That's awesome. But when you throw the ball 64 times, and he had 2 turnovers in that game, listen, he played well enough to win, but he didn't win against a Raiders team that no one thought was very good. Everybody thought the Chargers were going to win that game going into it. The next year...
Okay, we can break down that game. He had, 3 clutch 4th and long.
He sure did. I don't doubt that.
And then he didn't get to touch the ball in OT.
Right. Because of his coach. But that was a whole other thing. And listen, like I said, he played fine in that game. He should have beaten the Raiders to get in the playoffs.
And that
season, they make the playoffs. And they're playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, again, I looked this up, they were 5-point favorites against. And they go up 27-0 against the Jacksonville Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence, who we know now is not the creme de la creme of quarterbacks. And he has objectively one of the worst second halves in playoff history. They collapse and lose to the Jaguars in one of the most embarrassing playoff defeats in recent memory, maybe ever. The next season, they miss the playoffs completely with Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen and a roster which overhauled its defense the year before to bring in Khalil Mack and Derwin James and a bunch of guys who we thought were going to take that defense over the edge so the Chargers could hold some teams under 30 points, which they didn't end up doing because, again, I agree, their coach sucked. But, again, if you're one of these quarterbacks, these top 10 guys, these undisputed perfect talents, you need to raise your franchise like Joe Burrow does.
Joe Burrow who missed the playoffs.
Huh?
Joe Burrow who
made a Super Bowl and made an AFC Championship game after that. Herbert hasn't come close to that.
2-3 years ago.
Okay, we're not talking about 10 years ago though. 2-3 years ago, that is not long in football years.
If we want to talk about 2-3 years ago, then let's talk about Herbert 5,000 passing yards and 38 touchdown passes.
And what did that get him?
That got him on a terrible team. On a terrible team with Brandon Staley as his head coach.
I disagree that it is
arguably
a terrible team.
Arguably one of the worst coaches ever. Ever. I don't even think he's in the league, associated with the league at all.
He's a bad coach, but they had a good roster.
Yeah, but the defense was terribly coached. It didn't even matter.
And then they come into this year after missing the playoffs, and again they go into he's got absolutely a great coach who's been proven everywhere, a really good running game, and the best defense in football. And he plays a Texans team who no one believed in coming into this game. The Chargers were road favorites, and he plays terribly. He plays absolutely terribly. He throws 4 interceptions, like I said. That's one more than he threw the entire season. He flatly looks flustered in the second half. It seems like every single time he has even a little bit of time, he looks antsy in the pocket because he's trying to get rid of it. And just overall, he looked like the moment was too big for him. And when that happens to a top 5 talent, as you describe him, he needs to be criticized as a top 5 talent and not blame everybody else around him like we've done the past 4 years of this. And again, we're in year 5 with this guy.
Yeah.
This isn't like he's a second-year player here. We have a big sample size of what he can do. And what he's done so far has not equated to anything.
Okay, but Peyton Manning didn't do anything in 5 years.
Oh my gosh, here we go again.
You
can't compare Justin Herbert to Peyton Manning.
Okay, but why not?
Why can you?
Because
Peyton
Herbert's
Manning
got
was the number 1 recruit in high school, number 1 recruit in college, number 1 pick.
Yes, I get that stuff. And I'm not saying he's a future Peyton, but we got to be patient with quarterbacks nowadays. That's why Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold are succeeding, because the Jets and the Browns weren't patient. It's not going to happen right away. Not everyone's Lamar or Mahomes or Allen. You just got to be patient, and then eventually they'll get that Super Bowl run.
Stafford's an interesting comparison because I do agree with that. That's very, very close to what they're doing, and I think they have similar talent levels. You know what Stafford got? He got shredded for his first 8-9 years in Detroit. He got taken to the shed, bro.
And Herbert's interior O-line was terrible.
It's never, whenever he wins, it's all Herbert.
Whenever
he
this
loses,
year
it's his O-line. He has no talent out wide. And listen, I think the Chargers, they definitely need...
no talent out wide other than McConkey.
They need another wide receiver. I don't disagree. They need another wide receiver. They need probably a guard. And they probably need to sign a cornerback. But when it comes to this Justin Herbert discussion, it just makes me so frustrated because whenever I see him put up big numbers in a win, it's all Justin Herbert. But whenever he puts up bad numbers in a loss, like it seems like it's everyone else around him who gets blamed, and not him.
I will say this year a lot of the wins weren't him because of Harbaugh's sort of run game first mentality.
Ball control, yeah.
But like I will say, he had cracked ribs for a few stretchy games this year. That's why his stats are a little down. But only 3 picks all year. He used to have like 10+ pick seasons. He's reducing the turnovers. He's playing winning football. But
he doesn't win.
He was 11-6 this year.
And what did it get him?
Yeah, it got them a playoff spot.
A playoff collapse.
But he played one bad game. Let's not claim
no,
like it was a bad
you can't do that in the NFL playoffs. It's win or go home. You can't do one bad game.
Okay, well then let's criticize every single elite QB that didn't make the playoffs. Joe Burrow.
He got criticized.
Kyler Murray.
Got criticized.
Tua.
Got criticized.
Geno Smith.
You're making my point for me.
Yeah, I know, but people are starting to now question Herbert as like the guy. He is the guy. He is that guy.
I agree with you. He's the guy.
I would take him in a heartbeat. He's got all the physical tools you need. He does, though.
So does Anthony Richardson.
Okay, but Anthony Richardson hasn't done anything in the league.
Okay.
Physical tools with a combination of great stats. That's a pretty good quarterback.
Okay, we've got to go from one quarterback who we have questions about to another. Bills Broncos. This one started off, and it was kind of like, wait, maybe we got a bit of a game on our hands. Like, Bills are looking a little nervous. You know, they had one just laser beam by Nix up the middle for that touchdown. And then the Bills just took control. Josh Allen, he looks like an NBA superstar on an NFL football field. And that is so rare, like the impact that one guy can have on a football game. He's ridiculous. The Bills obviously are going to go into just a rubber match against the Ravens, which we're going to get into in a bit. But I want to stick with the Broncos because they had a really interesting season. Obviously, they went in a very positive direction coming off of the Russell Wilson disaster. Yeah. Seems like they've rebuilt the roster, in particular their defense, which their defensive line looks like it's only going to get better. But obviously, at the middle of this is Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Do you think Bo Nix is the guy in Denver moving forward?
I think he's the guy for a few years, but I don't think he's going to ever win you a Super Bowl. I think the thing is when you draft an old quarterback like him is, like, this is sort of, I wouldn't say peak, but, like, it could be. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think there's much more from that. I don't think, you know, where, like, with Caleb Williams, Jayden Daniels, Drake May, you have an MVP potential, and I don't think you get that in Bo Nix.
Totally.
I think he's like to bring up Herbert again, I think he's like a very low level of like a Herbert.
It's an interesting comparison. I'm going to go on the other end of that where, remember when Mac Jones was coming out of college and everyone was like, he's the most pro-ready. And in that rookie season, he had the best year of his career by a mile. He ended up being a Pro Bowl alternate. And he made the playoffs. And he looked like, okay, maybe this guy can be a starter for a while. But as he continued to develop, you realized, okay, there's a ceiling here. Now, Bo Nix is not Mac Jones. Bo Nix is a lot more athletic than Mac Jones. He puts way more whip on the ball than Mac Jones. I think he's a better teammate than Mac Jones. I think he's a flatly just a better football player than Mac Jones is. I'm not trying to make that argument.
I wouldn't say he was better in college.
No, but we're talking NFL here. But my point is, when guys come in and Bo Nix is what, 24 already? 25?
I think older, 25.
You have a ceiling as to how much more your talent can take you. Yeah. So that's my thing. I don't know if he's going to be able to be that consistent Super Bowl AFC championship guy, especially, like, it's so unfortunate to be in the AFC nowadays and you don't have Burrow Mahomes, Lamar, or Allen, because you got to go through those guys to make the NFC Championship, and it's tough. Notice how I didn't name Justin Herbert.
I just think I think he would be 5th on that list, though.
Fine, but he's got to get through those other guys. Break time and jump cut complete. Okay, so Philly played the Packers. This game was kind of like the Bills Broncos game, except from the start, it was kind of like, these teams are mismatched. It seemed like Green Bay had no room for error, and when your first play is fumbling the offensive kickoff, there's his error.
Huge hit.
It was a nice hit stick. That's a problem, and Green Bay can never recover from there. Their offense looked pedestrian. I'm gonna get into the fraudulent Green Bay Packers in a minute here, but I want to start with Philly. Did Philly prove that they're the team to beat in the NFC right now to you?
Well, no, I'd say that's the Lions. But, like, the passing game of the Eagles was just terrible. A.J. Brown only had, 10 yards. I just don't see how that's sustainable. I think it's going to be Eagles at Lions.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to win in Detroit that way.
I agree.
And, Saquon, he can run for as many yards as he wants, but... yeah, they're sort of leaning on that too much.
I agree. The thing that also scared me about Philly in this game was they were really playing with their food. I felt like in that first half they should have been up 21-0, but they went into half up 10-0. If Green Bay's offense had even shown a little bit of life in late second half, late second quarter, early second half, I think Green Bay really could have turned the tables on Philly quick. Because Philly had all the momentum and they didn't really have points to show for it.
Yeah.
So I think that should be concerning if you're Philadelphia, because besides that touchdown that they got off the kickoff return, their offense was just stagnant for that first half. I want to shout out Green Bay's D-line though. They're underrated. They're a good unit, and they were able to disrupt Hurts a lot more than I thought they'd be able to. But in terms of are they the team to beat in the NFC, like Caleb was mentioning, it's hard for me to believe that their passing game, being this out of sorts, is going to beat a Detroit, especially when Detroit's whole defensive philosophy is stop the run.
Yeah.
And then base everything else off of that. So...
and it's in Detroit.
I think
that's huge.
Yes, absolutely. Them getting... the Eagles were 100% hoping the Vikings would win that Week 18 game.
Yeah.
So, because... I think Philly matches up better with Minnesota than Detroit, even though I don't think Philly's a great...
Yeah.
Because, I just think Detroit's going to be able to play their ball control game back on.
Yeah.
I think Philly's got the best roster in the NFC right now with Detroit's injuries on defense. Although the Eagles just lost Nakobe Dean, who's a really good linebacker. He's going to miss some of next year, too. Yeah, he's out. He's 100% out for the playoffs. Might miss a bit of next year, which sucks.
Yeah.
But
they still have Zach Bond.
But the thing that made Philly's run defense in particular so good was those two linebackers flew around from sideline to sideline. You're missing that now, and that's a big thing for me. Also, A.J. Brown, I'm not hitting the panic button yet.
I'm not loving it.
I'm not loving the vibes over in Philly either.
Yeah. Vibes are off. I mean, Sirianni, that's a whole another discussion, what he even does. I mean, just being honest, though, and, I think A.J. Brown, you could say he's a little bit of a diva.
Yeah.
And he wants the ball. He seemed happy yesterday, but eventually he's going to start, complaining about it.
Is Nick Sirianni the greatest yapper in Philadelphia history?
Yeah, probably.
You think?
Nick Sirianni's like the kid that contributed nothing to the group project and got the A.
And presented it to the teacher.
Yeah.
So that the teacher's like, oh yeah, he led the group project, but he didn't actually do anything behind the scenes. Because he's always so brash and braggadocious. And anyways, not a fan. But there's not even a question for this. I just need to talk about the Packers for a minute, because all of you Packers fans out there who are hitting me up in my comment section, tweeting at me, talking, yapping about how you guys were the sleeper Super Bowl pigs. Ooh, don't sleep on the Packers. Don't sleep on the Packers. Ooh. You guys suck. Your team's terrible. Your best win this entire season was against the Rams without their 2 best receivers. Your wide receiver by committee experiment sucks. I understand all your receivers got injured, but even before that, your offense was just stale because you don't have a consistent number 1 receiver playmaker. You guys, Matt LaFleur, listen, he can be an offensive genius as much as you want, but eventually you got to manage the clock and call situational offense. Love has got to tighten up his fundamentals. There's only one guy in NFL history who could consistently throw off his back foot and throw rockets through keyholes, and I get that he's the guy who taught you how to play quarterback in the NFL level, but that doesn't mean you're him, buddy. You got to go to the Tom Brady school of throwing.
I'd say Joe Flacco was a good off the bat.
Flacco is not a good... I know he won a Super Bowl, but I don't care. Your right tackle is maybe the worst right tackle I've ever seen in my life. I counted 4 missed assignments that just blatantly blew up offensive plays for the Packers. And the other thing, this is really fascinating to me. I'm gonna bring this up to a different point later, but it was 3rd and 3 for the Packers. They were down 2 possessions at this point. This is score or you lose territory. You got to at least get a field goal here. And 3rd and 3, down 2 possessions. They had no Josh Jacobs at this point. Yeah. He went out with some sort of lower body injury. I can't remember what it was. They run the ball out of the shotgun. Now, I'm not going to say this means that Matt LaFleur doesn't have total trust in Jordan Love. But I will say actions speak a whole lot louder than words to me.
Yeah.
And when you look at the trust that Dan Quinn had in Jayden Daniels later in the night to go for it on those 4th downs, to put the ball in his hands in every big situation, and then you look at the Packers with Jordan Love and you have a big 3rd down where you could still be in this game if you score quick and then get a stop. And like I said, their defense was playing great.
Yeah.
Run the ball out of the shotgun with your backup running back instead of putting the ball in your $50 million quarterback's hands who you just gave a 4-year extension to. That's a bad sign, Packers fans. And also your roster's just not very good. You guys were comparing yourselves to the Lions all year and the Vikings. You're just not in that tier. You're a 7 seed. Good job making the playoffs. That's the new standard for Green Bay, I guess. Make the playoffs and get smoked. Yeah. Packers are terrible. Jordan Love, this baffled me, and then I'm probably going to leave this here. But Jordan Love on straight dropbacks. So what is a straight dropback, you're probably asking me? Well, that means no play action, no RPOs, no trickery. This is just hike, make a read, throw a completion, hopefully. Yep. Straight dropbacks. These are his stats this year. I'm not making any of these up. These are 100% legitimate. 57.7 completion percentage. 15 touchdowns to 15 interceptions and a 77 rating. Now, where would that rank out of all quarterbacks and straight dropbacks, you're probably asking? These numbers mean nothing to me. Well, let me tell you. It's the worst touchdown to interception ratio out of all 32 starters in straight dropbacks. 27th in completion percentage. 26th in completion percentage. 27th in passer rating on straight dropbacks. If that's not a jarring stat towards his accuracy and just overall talents as an NFL quarterback at this point, I don't know what is. And add on to that his coach's clear lack of trust in him in big moments. I can't get that 3rd and 3 out of my mind. Packers were frauds all year. I told you so. You didn't want to listen. Better luck next year. Go Lions. Commanders Bucks. This was by far the best game of the entire slate. I had so much fun with this entire game. I was rooting like hell for the Commanders because I think it's a great matchup for the Lions. But before we talk about that matchup, which I'm sure we're going to talk about plenty all week, I want to talk about this Commanders Bucks game because holy every swear word imaginable. Jayden Daniels is ridiculous. Is he having the greatest rookie season of all time? And I'm going to say not just quarterbacks for this argument.
Yeah.
We're going to say all players.
I would say no to both. I just think there's... Because if you're going to look at his regular season, over 10 interceptions, under 30 touchdown passes, whereas other guys have had over 30 touchdown passes as a rookie quarterback. A guy that's been named today already. But then if you look at all the players, I mean, if you're going way back, Randy Moss, 17 touchdowns and like 1,300 yards as a rookie.
Barry as a rookie had like 19 touchdowns.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can look at Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Odell Beckham Jr., Puka Nacua.
Just had to get that in there.
I mean, he had over 100 yards a game.
He's a dog. He's the dog.
I would definitely say he's better than C.J. Stroud's rookie year, but yeah, and if you're going way back, I can't think of anyone right now. I think there was a player who won like Defensive Player of the Year as a rookie too, like in like the 70s or something.
I think Lawrence Taylor did.
Taylor,
that was
yeah,
in
maybe.
the 80s. You should know that, Mr. Giants fan.
I don't think he did as a rookie.
I'm pretty sure he did. I'll look that up quick. I'm pretty sure Lawrence Taylor won Defensive Player of the Year as a rookie, and that's part of his legend.
I know he won an MVP.
Rookie of the Year. Let's see. I think because I remember he had 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 81. So he won it in 81. What was his rookie year? Defensive Rookie of the Year in 81 as well. So yeah, he won it in the same year. So he won Rookie of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year in the same year. That's disgusting.
They didn't count like sacks though, so back then. I think that was the last year they didn't count sacks, so it's sort of hard to judge.
I think they did count sacks. I think it was 79 when they started counting sacks. Anyways, we're talking about 1979 football. I want to talk about Jayden Daniels because I think this is the greatest rookie season we've ever seen. And it needs context because if you just want to go off stats, you got me. Herbert obviously had a better rookie season in terms of stats. Like Randy Moss, I can't even argue with that. He had that Thanksgiving game that year. He was just a ridiculous rookie. Calvin Johnson, when he came in, there was just nothing you could do. Barry Sanders, like I mentioned. Jim Brown won bloody MVP his rookie.
Yeah, if we're going way back.
Yeah. I can name, there's plenty of them. But, you as football fans out there watching and us, what the Commanders were before they got Jayden Daniels, they were in that Jaguars, Jets, Raiders, in that category of just constant bottom feeders who seemingly had no light at the end of the tunnel whatsoever. And in 1 year, this guy's aura, his swagger, his obvious incredible talent has just flipped this franchise on its head. And like I said, with the Jordan Love point, the trust that Dan Quinn has in this kid compared to some other quarterbacks like Love I just mentioned, 2 early 4th down attempts. Only one of them worked out, but he had the balls after the first one didn't work out to say, you know what, I don't lose confidence in this kid at all. I'm doing it again. And red zone made the difference for both teams in this game. Jayden made the plays. But again, to go back to greatest rookie of all time, I don't think Washington's roster is particularly talented. McLaurin's awesome, but their offensive line isn't good.
It's not good.
It's fine. Okay, let's say it's fine. Their second best receiver is that Brown guy. He's fine, but yesterday was his best game of his career. He's okay. Zach Ertz is an old aging tight end. Their defense is bad, but outside of Bobby Wagner and a decent edge rusher. So when you really look at it, from last year to this year, there's really no significant changes outside of they got this phenom who I don't care what the science is behind this. When you have that guy on your sideline, you're going to play a little harder because you think you can win every single game, especially when they're winning games the way they're winning games. It feels like every Commanders game is some crazy finish with just them coming out on top. The belief that this team has right now in their quarterback is just next level. And he has the impact on a franchise that even a Randy Moss or a Barry Sanders or whatever couldn't have just by virtue of the position that they play. Now, he made a couple of bad reads yesterday. I thought he missed a tight end in the flat early, which could have cost him. But the poise that he has as a rookie in the pocket, Man, I've never seen it before.
Okay, so my sort of devil's advocate to that point is they're going to get crushed by the Lions, in my opinion. And that's sort of like Stroud last year against... That's sort of like Stroud last year against the Ravens in the playoffs, in my opinion. And everyone was talking about C.J. Stroud, the greatest rookie ever, and like sophomore slump out of nowhere. I think people get overhyped with rookies, especially rookie QBs. I mean, was Josh Allen good as a rookie? Was Lamar Jackson good as a rookie? Patrick Mahomes didn't even play as a rookie. Joe Burrow wasn't the greatest rookie ever. So, you know, we just sort of need to pump the brakes, I think, because C.J. Stroud now had a whole year where defenses can look at his tape, and I think the same thing will happen with Jayden Daniels.
I'm glad you brought up C.J. Stroud because I watched him last year, and I thought he was really good, but he didn't have this explosion and playmaking ability that Jayden does. He doesn't have the athletic ability that Jayden does.
Yeah, no,
I don't
he
think
can't
he quite
run like Jayden. He can't run on that third down that Jayden made.
Right, that's huge. Though.
Yeah,
those
I get
key
that.
plays. And I also think Jayden's just a bit more of like a baller in terms of he's just always in control, it feels like, and he's always
there are some things
that
that worry me about him. Like there was a big hit he took yesterday. I think he needs to sort of bulk up.
Yeah, he's also so skinny.
Yeah.
Just quick jump cut. All right, we're back. Last game of the slate is tonight. I think we're both really looking forward to this. It was Commanders Bucks and this game that we were really looking forward to. I think Rams Vikings is a heck of a matchup. But regardless of who wins tonight, if you're Philly, out of those two teams, who would you least want to play?
Ooh, see, this is funny about the NFL because it's all about matchups.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Vikings are a better team, but I think the Eagles would rather play the Vikings.
Why?
Because I feel like Sam Darnold's not going to go into Philadelphia and win. And I feel like Matthew Stafford can do that. And I just feel like that would be the difference there.
Yeah. I mean, that's honestly very sound logic.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree, but I actually kind of have this upside down for what you do. I think because of roster construction, like the roster that the Vikings have, I think is significantly better than the Rams. The defense is opportunistic and plays their asses off. I think their offense obviously has a lot more talent than the Rams' does. But at the same time, I don't think the Vikings are going to win tonight. But if I was Philly, I would not want to see the Vikings just because I think they can go player for player with Philly a lot better than the Rams can, especially when it comes to the run game. Like the last time Philly played the Rams, they played once this regular season. I think Saquon had something like 230 on the ground. I don't think that's happening against Minnesota because Minnesota's front is a lot better, especially with Grenard having the season that he's having, and their Lev Van Ginkel's a dog, and they got good linebackers. So I think in terms of matchups, Philly would rather play the Rams just because I think they could ball control them to death and win the game basically just on the ground. I think Hurts would have to throw maybe 15 passes.
Like, you're saying against the Rams, you might have to throw.
I think if the Eagles play the Rams in the divisional round, I don't think Hurts is going to have to throw more than like 15 passes.
And that's when they win.
Yeah.
Like, and Jalen Hurts, I mean, he's like not even the version he was in 2022. I don't know why. But if he's throwing over 25 times a game, they're not winning that game.
Do you think the concussion has something to do with it?
No, because he was not that good last year either, individually. I don't know. It's just, I honestly don't know. Maybe that year was a fluke. No idea.
Well, it's just, I will say this about Hurts, like, we've seen him his entire career. Like, at Alabama, he wasn't that good. At Oklahoma, he had a good year, but he was like,
he was a Heisman candidate.
Yeah, he was, but he was so good that he was a second-round pick, right? So that. In the NFL, his first couple years, he was terrible. He had the Super Bowl run, and since then he's been, like, I don't know. It seems like 1 year out of his career, he was like super duper star, and other than that, he's good, but he's not that guy in terms of like yes, that's who I'm picking. Like in our hypothetical
Like,
draft, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not like in a quarterback redraft. I don't think he's a game manager, but he is very much benefiting off a great organization and a great team.
Yes, I think he's
very much so.
I think his arm is more limited than people think. But I want to finish off with two guys whose arms are anything but freaking limited. Guys, this might be the game of the year. Ravens Bills. Like, whoever wins this game against the Chiefs is probably going to be the game of the year just because it's the new up-and-coming guy versus the defending champs, and that's a better story. But in terms of, like, talent level, how these teams are playing right now, these offenses, the two MVP frontrunners. We'll have an MVP debate another day. I don't want to do it right now. We've already gone too long. But regardless of MVP, who's the better player, who do you think needs this game more? Who do you think needs to win this one?
Well, it's going to be extremely disappointing for either because they're going to both lose in the divisional round.
Yeah.
I think Allen needs it more, though.
Why?
Because Lamar has made 3 first-team All-Pros. He's going to win his 3rd MVP, in my opinion. The All-Pro team and the MVP voters are the same people. There's no way they wouldn't give it to Lamar.
I think they might just... I don't want to do an MVP talk. No, that wasn't what I was going to say. I think they might put some more emphasis on the word valuable this year, just considering Josh's supporting cast. Like, Lamar was the best player statistically, but Josh was the most valuable. I think there is a way Josh can win. Anyways, go ahead.
But I think it's... Because I think Lamar's going to win his 3rd MVP, people are going to be like, what's Josh Allen done in the league? For being, like, considered a top 2 quarterback. Like, it's always like Mahomes or Allen. If Lamar wins, it's going to be Mahomes or Lamar. And so, yeah, Allen, that would be a 4th year in a row ending in the divisional round. I mean, it's one thing to never go to a Super Bowl for someone like Josh Allen, but it's another thing to not even make the conference championship. And so it's in Buffalo, too. It would be Lamar beating him a 2nd time. It just would not go well for Allen if that was the case.
My cop-out answer is whoever wins the MVP needs this game more. Because I feel like there's something to living up to that. But if MVP isn't announced by then, which I don't think it is. I think
MVP is announced is after the conference championship.
Right. So it's not announced. I think it is unquestionable that Allen needs this game more.
Yeah.
Like you said, in terms of accomplishments, Lamar has him lapped at this point. He's already got 2. He's got 2 first-team All-Pros.
3.
Oh, yeah, he just got named, my bad. 3 first-team All-Pros. And he's got just a bit more of a regular season reputation, which means Allen's whole thing is he's a beast in the playoffs. And he has been. He's been really good outside of really 2 games. So for Josh to keep that reputation up is super important. Add to that the fact that I think the Bills have a much better chance of dethroning the Chiefs than the Ravens do. Again, that's a whole nother debate. But if the AFC wants to flip on its head and stop these Chiefs, I think the Bills need to win this game because I feel like the Ravens are just kind of shell-shocked by the Chiefs at this point. Whereas the Bills, obviously they beat them earlier this year. They have all the belief in the world that their quarterback's as good as Mahomes is. I think the Bills could really do some damage for the Chiefs. But just off reputation, like, man, if Allen loses this game after the best year of his career, best O-line he's ever played with, and you don't even get a chance to see Mahomes in the playoffs, like, that's tough.
It's very demotivating stuff.
Yes.
Because, like, the fact that with Allen and Lamar, I don't even know if we're ever going to get them together in the conference championship.
I don't know either.
Like, because Mahomes is just always there. And, it's just Mahomes and whoever else. And this year it's going to be Allen or Lamar against Mahomes. I mean, assuming the Texans lose.
They will.
Yeah, they probably will.
That'll be good.
It would be nice if they didn't.
Yeah. Like, if Lamar had the best regular season of his career, and like I said, his reputation isn't dependent on playoff success at this point. Obviously, he needs it by the end of his career, but no one's going to say...
I mean, does he, though? Like, needs a Super Bowl?
Lamar?
Like, for what, though?
I feel like to be an all-time... Like, isn't
Dan
that
Marino's
the thing?
an all-time great.
Yeah, but you need a Super Bowl to be a like the guy.
Yeah, I know,
Like,
but to be like, I don't get what you're saying. If there's
I'm saying Lamar needs to win a Super Bowl at some point in his career to be an all-time great. I feel like that's kind of.
But is Dan Marino not an all-time great?
He is, but he's also known for not having a Super Bowl. He's on that list.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not. I guess what I'm trying to say is he's still gonna like. I think Lamar. I don't know what you think. I think he's a Hall of Famer right now. But like, okay, he's not top 10 because he didn't win a Super Bowl. I mean, I'm not going to take that away from him.
I think the ultimate goal as a quarterback is winning a Super Bowl.
It is.
I feel like if you're not...
And all those guys should, like Allen and Lamar should, keyword should, have a Super Bowl and MVP by the end of their career. But Mahomes is probably going to be the only one that ends it with both, I think.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for spending some time with us talking about the NFL. Obviously, we both love doing it. So if you enjoyed what you heard, or if you disagreed with anything we said, let us know in the comments below, because, like I said, we love talking football. We'll respond to some of you guys in the comments. Please like on the video if you enjoyed what you saw today. Please subscribe. Spit Sports just hit over 380 subscribers. Big things happening on the channel. And we'll see you all in the next. Peace out.